날날 저게 무슨 날에 날라던 거 놈도 나나 당근아 같이 날랐으면 남이 없는 잘아버지라 이어던 사람 잘아버지라 이어던 사람 잘아버지라 한글로 가자.
Hi, I'm Mark, and you are listening to the third episode of the Hallaholla podcast. For today's episode, I'm in the Jeoji artist village on the western half of the island. There's a spit bubble that just went by. That's fine. We're going with this. It's a very cool area, chock full of artist residencies, hip cafes, and museums. And today, I'm lucky enough to be with the channel's first guest artist, Yujin Lee. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Mark.
Yeah, she runs the very well-known Next Door to the Museum. We'll get into that later. Thanks for coming, and thanks for just, look at this backdrop. If I could describe to our listeners, just, it was really hard to find the right place to hold the interview. I'm really thankful it's not raining, but every angle here is just awesome. Behind us, we have chickens and sparrows eating together in harmony. Just to my right, we have a dog just passed out on the grass. This is fantastic. This is a lovely backdrop. I'm so happy. This is exactly what I wanted.
Aww,
so thank you for providing. Thank you for having this.
Oh yeah, sure.
Just for me, just for my channel.
You're so special.
Yeah, well, yeah, someday. So that's what my mom says. So the first pair of questions that we ask all of our guests are, who are you and what brought you to Jeju?
So my name is Yujin Lee, and what brought me to Jeju? I wanted to live my 30s and 40s in a countryside, away from the city, the competition, and being the slave of many jobs. So
Yeah.
I think that was my initial reason.
Just any city, like particular city, or just all cities?
Yeah, I just didn't want to live in a city anymore. I didn't want to walk out of my house and walk on a cement.
Yeah.
I wanted to walk on a stone and the ground and dirt. Yeah. So, and I was looking at many options, but Jeju was the perfect place in the end because I'm Korean. I lived abroad for many years and I wanted to come back home. And Jeju was a place that already many people were going.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like some random countryside.
Yeah.
And it had both the city and the nature and ocean and the mountain. And so, yeah, what better place could I have chosen?
Now, before you made this big decision and before you chose Jeju, what was your relationship with Jeju before making that big choice?
Actually, I came here when I was young on a family trip. And since then, I haven't been back for, I don't know, I can't even remember. But then 2017, I did a very short and very alternative artist residency in Daejeong. It was their first year running it. It was ran in a farmhouse like this one. And it was only 8 days. It was in a beautiful weather in May.
Yeah.
And this was the time when I was living in New York and I was thinking, I want to leave New York City. Where could I go? And so I tried this residency out and I fell in love. It was a beautiful May season where all the tangerine flowers were blooming.
Yeah.
And, I was in this beautiful Jeju farmhouse. Yeah, it was just very ideal. So that time, during that 8 days, I decided, okay, I'm going to live in Jeju. And then I declared it to my parents. And then they were like, what?
I declare.
Yeah, exactly.
You roll out I declare that I shall move to Jeju Island.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then a year after, I moved.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's quite a jump from New York to Jeju. And for those who are unaware, coming in May is a lovely
beautiful.
time. That's the time. It's hard to get a ticket in May, right?
Yeah.
It's May and October.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Perfect weather to come.
That's right. Speaking of artists, and you with your art, you describe yourself, if we look you up, as a visual artist who works with process art and relational art. Now, for those unfamiliar, even me, I studied art, and I'm still like, what was it? Can you tell us what process and relational art actually is.
Yeah, I mean, I think you just take it for like literally. Process art is art that focuses more on the process rather than the result. So oftentimes, the process of making the art is part of the experience of the art. So that's process art. And relational art is art that has the relationship at the center. So it's not about the object. Let's say there's a painting. It's not about the painting, but maybe how the painting is made with who.
Okay.
So it could also today, I feel like it extends beyond human relations.
Okay.
It could also be with a dog or with your environment, the ecology at large. But essentially, relationships are at the center of the art experience.
Do you have any, I want to say constructive debates, or I'm going to say, do you argue with any, has it ever come up with other artists who have just argued like, no, it's not about the process, it's about the result. That's what it is. Like, has that ever come?
Sometimes, but I think when you're younger, I think you, and I was like this too, you want to define what art is, and that is the only answer. But as I progressed as an artist, and I realized that actually there's many different kinds of art, and this is the kind of art that I chose to do. And it doesn't mean that all art has to be relational and process based. It's just that is the kind of expression that I chose. And then I also have friends who are painters, purely just painting. I love them. I love their work. I love their passion around it. So yeah, it's just one of many type of art.
There we go.
Yeah.
I like that. I mean, it's just your jam.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's about it. And actually, a mutual acquaintance of ours, she actually lives just right back there.
Yeah.
She told me that you have said, quote, art shouldn't be passively hung on the wall, but experienced. Is that accurate?
Yes. I mean, I say that often, and it's not just about this, what I do like now, relational art. It's actually a term that's coined by a French art critic. But let's say in Korean visual culture, we can think about shaman paintings that are hung while shamans are performing their rituals.
Right.
They believe that this painting is not just hanging there as a decoration; it's actually a seat for the god to come and sit.
Yeah.
So they consider it more sort of like an object that can hold certain spirit or energy. So that's why for the longest time, Korean collectors, they refused to collect shaman paintings.
Okay.
Because they said, then you're bringing in this god, the god whichever
Right, how
god
dare
you don't know,
you actually
into the home,
Yeah.
and you don't know this god,
Yeah.
so you cannot. It's
Yeah.
a living thing. So I find that super fascinating, and because we live in a world where today paintings, especially paintings, they're almost like real estate.
Yeah.
They are
Yep.
purchased for their monetary value, and
Which rises and drops
Yeah.
and waxes and wanes.
and
Yeah.
sometimes it has nothing to do with enjoying the art because of its real estate value, it's kept in the storage, and then
Right.
only the owners change, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes it will never see the light of day.
Yeah.
So for me to think about a painting that is so strong and so living, so alive, that it cannot be just kept away or kept hung as a decoration in the background of your life, that's very powerful. So that's what I would like to create. I don't know if I'm actually creating that kind of work, but yeah.
I mean, that's so interesting that you mentioned that because to go back with how work is like treated as real estate. I mean, just a certain major conglomerate the past couple of years did a massive sale of such works,
Yeah.
and people were just chomping at the bit. Like who?
Right.
I mean, this country was like, well, districts were like, we want to just open up a museum just to like say like raise this real estate or just
Yeah.
to have it in. It's pretty fascinating.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's kind of wild if you think of it that way. And also I've also had the chance to see some of these like massive Buddhist murals. I wouldn't say I'm a spiritual guy, but I don't know. I kind of feel something.
Yeah.
Maybe it's the lighting or something. Just the way it does have like a certain aura
Yeah.
about it.
And
Yeah.
also, I think it has more of that aura if you see it in the original context, like in the temple, right?
Yeah.
Because I remember I did a semester in Rome when I was in college, and I went to all these old cathedrals and churches, and they have the original Caravaggio on the wall.
Yeah.
Right? Then it's like the experience is totally different from when you look at that in a Louvre museum, some big museum. So I think the fact that the art is not just like a separate entity, but
Yeah.
it's part of an environment,
Yep.
part of a larger sort of a relation. I think I like that more.
I'm so happy that you mentioned Caravaggio because when I studied in Italy just for a little bit, my professor, he's like, Mark, come here. Because he knows I'm a sucker for chiaroscuro, right?
yeah.
I love me some
Yeah.
darks and shallow spaces.
Yeah.
I love that stuff. So he's like, come here. And we just go into, it was like an old beat up cathedral. He's like, check this out. And I just turn the wall and it's Caravaggio, just massive. I mean, I'm just like,
Yeah.
right? And everybody was like, dude, I'm like, are you not, do you see this?
Yeah.
I couldn't believe it.
And
It's
even
just
the
right there.
lighting is different, right?
Yeah.
It's not like a white cube with like, center light. It's very dark almost.
Yeah.
You can like that chiaroscuro, it's even more drastic in that kind of context.
Yes. Yeah. And, but even when I saw it, it was in like the afternoon. But just the coldness and the dankness
Yeah.
of the surrounding, just I don't know.
Yeah,
I was
something
just
else.
really beside myself when
Yeah.
I saw that. Awesome. I'm glad you mentioned that. Wow, that's a core memory unlocked. Now, a major artistic event that just finished, and we talked about this. You are, taking a break right now. You are taking it easy because earlier this month, the third Jeju Biennale just finished, and ND to the M, or next to the museum, played an integral part. And can you explain what next door to the museum is?
So where we're sitting right now, we're sitting in the garden of the next door to the museum. Basically, it's literally a house that is next door to Jeju Contemporary Art Museum,
Yeah.
Museum of Art. And this is actually where I live, and I also create art. And I've been sharing this space with other artists by inviting them to live with me. So artist to artist, we can live together, inspire each other, make some art. We don't have to show it in the end, but it's more about building that relationship, and also, outside of like a context of, like a museum or like an institution.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I've been doing that for 4 years, and I think you can see in the background there's a mural. This mural is also painted by one of the resident artists from Busan. And so I've been doing this, and then Jeju decided to hold their third Biennale
Yeah.
after 5 years and after COVID. And so it was like a big deal. And the artistic director for this year's Biennale, she wanted to do a show around the theme of environment and climate change and Anthropocene, like the hot keywords in the art world. And she was looking for exhibition venues. Of course, the two museums in Jeju are the main venues, and then she wanted to have some satellite venues. And since my house is also conveniently right, like 5 minutes
Next
away,
door to the museum.
exactly, she came by. Initially, she wanted to hire me as like a full-time curator, and I said, "Oh, I'm."
How did she find out about you?
I was recommended because the director of the Jeju Museum of Art,
Okay.
who's the host of this biannual, we've been friends for a couple of years.
Okay.
So she said, okay, there's an artist who runs this space. Maybe she also curates, so she can maybe be your curator.
Mm-hmm.
And then I said, I don't want to have a full-time thing because this is actually not my main thing.
Right.
I'm an artist /
Very
curator.
different animal curating.
Yeah. So I didn't want to do it like a
Respect.
yeah. So then I and then she came to see the show, and she's like, "Oh, this space is so nice, and maybe we could do something with it." And I said, "Oh, I would be very open to that. Like, if I could do what I've been doing so far, invite an artist, and they can stay here for a residency, and then show the work, the result of that work during the biannual. So this could be like a venue, one of the venues." And she really liked the idea, so we pursued it. Yeah.
Well, I got to say, we had a chance, PD and I had a chance to participate in your event.
Yeah.
And we're not throwing shade anywhere else. 'Cause we're kind of putting preference here, but this was a standout
Thank you.
experience. It was fantastic, and it was all free, which was crazy.
Yeah.
And just the experience. It was relationship art. It was process. And there was a bit of food involved, and there was just community involved, and it was different things. Like at one point, we made the kimchi, but then we also enjoyed inside. We had the curry made by your residential artist, who is Rirkrit Tiravanija, and who happens to be your professor.
Yes.
Right, your graduate professor.
Yes.
So where do we start here? Where do we start?
See,
Yeah.
what you just said laid out all of that.
Yeah.
If people who haven't seen the show listen to it and be like, what the F are you talking about?
Yeah.
You know? And
Yeah.
I realized during this show, people always ask me, like, explain me what
Like,
you're
what
doing
is it?
there.
Yeah.
Like, I realized I cannot explain it words. You have to experience it.
Yeah.
I can explain what is happening like throughout the 1 hour tour.
Yeah.
But even after I explain it, they're kind of like, I don't really get it. You know?
Because it makes me kind of tired to try to explain everything that goes on too.
And then I realized it kind of relates to the previous conversation about the, like shaman painting. It's like the kind of art that you cannot explain.
Yeah.
Like you have to experience it. It's
Right.
that kind of art. And that is what relational art is, because so many things happen with the audience, whoever the audience is, it also creates a variation of that experience. So not everybody's going to have the same experience. And so, yeah.
You too, from the other end, because you're
Yeah.
holding it. It's going to be very dynamic.
Yeah,
Each
exactly.
time. How many workshops did you hold each day? Was it 2?
It was 3 sessions, per day, and
Wow.
1 hour each, and
Yeah.
5 days a week.
Yeah.
And I think in the end we met maybe maybe around 1,000 people
Yeah.
through, and every single person I talked to one-on-one. So it's kind
Good
of
for
crazy.
you.
Yeah,
Wow. Jeez. And the artist, let's talk about him. I mean, you start. 'Cause
Okay, so this whole project is a artistic project by Rirkrit Tiravanija, who was my grad school Columbia professor and currently a very good friend and mentor. And all of the things that I explained, I think is at the essence of his work too. He said at the artist talk that we held that sometimes he liked to present work at an unfinished stage because the audience comes in and then they complete it in their own way, and that there is some beauty in that. And it's not always intentionally he presents something unfinished, but some things happen in the process of putting an exhibition together. And maybe for other artists that would be like almost like a catastrophic thing.
Yeah.
But for Tiravanija, he always sort of welcomes that. He's like, oh, okay, if not all parts of the, let's say an installation came from Mexico, if some parts are missing, maybe we can continue making it while the
Right.
exhibition is going on, something like this, right?
Right. That's
So
what he talked about.
Yeah, so he kind of keeps a lot of doors open in the exhibition so that it's not like a complete work that someone has to understand in one way, but it's a work that you can enter and you can change and shift, and you be part of the work by doing that.
It's like 20 levels above like going with the flow. It's not just like, just he's like, yeah, man, whatever. Like
Yeah.
there's definitely process and thought
Yeah.
and problem solving to his
Yeah.
work. And
Exactly.
just there's a bit of like a little of an architectural element to it, and just that literal building and figurative.
Yeah.
It's really fascinating.
No, he calls
Yeah.
it like a platform,
Yeah.
his work. So many things can happen in the platform. Platform is like a framework, right? And different people use it different ways, like Instagram or whatever. So I think what he's doing is quite, I would say, contemporary, and not this sort of a traditional idea of art
Yeah.
hanging on a wall.
And the sick thing was he was here.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. That was like
Yeah.
that was amazing.
Yeah.
But wait, was that planned, or how? That was pretty much planned from the get-go?
Yeah,
or?
from the beginning.
Yeah.
The deal was, okay, he has to come and do the residency because that's the main part of this space.
So how did you type the email? Like, pretty please,
I sent him a message.
Hey,
And then I
hey,
said,
come to Jeju.
I said, Rirkrit,
Yeah.
I need to talk to you. He's serious.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then we had a phone call. And and immediately he's like, I would love to come to Jeju.
That's
and
awesome.
whatever you want to do, like, let's do it. It's going to be fun.
How many times has he been to Jeju?
So he came in September last year just for a 1-day trip to see the space, just to get the feel of it. But a lot of the ideas, the central ideas came on that day. And then in October, he stayed here for 7 nights for the residency.
Yeah.
And then he sort of completed all the details of the concept and how the tour is going to be. And,
Nice.
Yeah. And then once the show was up, I was sort of his avatar and doing the tours.
I see.
And giving and creating this experience for the audience. And then he came to meet the audience in January. He was here 8 nights, so longer. But the Lunar New Year was part of it, so
Yeah,
we
that's
ended
right.
up holding like 3 events throughout this 8 days. And yeah, we did the kimchi making event. We did. We invited the Jeju ceramicist whom he collaborated with, and created a very impromptu, like firing clay kind of event. And then we did the artist talk. Yeah.
The artist talk, it was funny to me because I feel like some. It was just. I'm not naming names or anything, but it was funny. It was interesting to see. Everybody asked questions, which was cool.
Yeah.
That everybody was a part of it.
Yeah.
But I felt like some audience members, they wanted some deep, profound explanation.
Yeah.
But isn't it? But don't you mean? And the kid's like, that's life, baby. Like, I don't know. He was just very like, I don't know what else to tell you. I mean, I just did this because of this, and that's that. And I feel like, I don't know. I feel like some members were like, okay.
Actually, I'm not interested in trying to determine what is art. You know, what I do. I'm trying to do what I think is maybe a kind of a place where certain lines are a little bit crossed over, and that we have an experience together which maybe we don't usually have, you know. Or we don't think about, even if maybe we are sitting together, you know.
It's the way it works.
And he was that kind of professor too.
Yeah.
Because when you're like a
Grad
art
student, yeah.
very serious, right?
yeah.
Art is very serious, so you want answers from
Yeah.
these established artists.
Yeah.
And then he's always sort of avoiding the answer somehow.
Yeah.
And I think he did that in the artist talk. I think a lot of people, a lot of people who came to the artist talk, they experienced this exhibition, so
Yeah,
they
that's
felt
true.
something, right?
Yeah, right.
They wanted answers, right? But
Why do I feel this? Tell me, please. Tell me, please. Yeah.
But then his whole thing, the point is not to give answers, but for
Okay.
people to find it themselves. And I think
Yeah.
that's how he taught me too.
Yeah.
And at the time, I was very confused when I was a student, but now I really get it.
Yeah.
And it works.
Yes.
Because it makes you think more if he
Right.
doesn't give you the answer.
Right.
Yeah.
That's cool. That's such a cool like coming of age, like maturing process as you as a student.
Yeah.
You know, just going from like grad student to like adult. I don't know, like human. Because we're still kids. We're grad students. We're still kids. We just haven't left school yet. Come on.
Yeah.
I'm not bashing you because I didn't get my MFA. But anyways.
Don't get it.
Yeah. Okay. Got it. Check. Now, if you had to do, let's say, somehow you had to just just rewind and you had to do this all over again with the same people. Is there anything that you would change in like the execution or process, or are you like pretty satisfied with the way things went?
I'm pretty satisfied. But I wish I was less worried, I guess. I was very worried
Yeah.
the whole time.
Sure.
Sometimes I thought I could have enjoyed it a little bit more. And I think I could have been a little bit more flexible. But I think it's also me like censoring myself because
Yeah.
Rirkrit basically told me I can do whatever I want because at this point he's saying that I'm, like basically his avatar or whatever.
Yeah, you're there.
I'm the one who's hosting it, and but then I still felt like the curator side of me thought but this is his work, so I need to sort of really figure out what he wants to do. But of course, like I said earlier, whenever I ask him a question, he's like, "Stop asking me a question. Ask Gun."
Yeah.
And I said, "Ask."
Yeah.
Okay.
Guns. He's the one. He's the fellow who gave us the tea. Thank you, Gun. Thank you very much, sir.
Gun.
Yeah.
we
He's always
always-
providing the food and
Yes,
drinks, isn't he?
Yes, he makes the curry.
Yeah, that's
and
right.
Yeah. Anyway, so then but then I really learned a lot from this actually executing Rirkrit's work this time, because at one point I realized I thought I knew his work very well, but actually executing it is a whole other thing, and I really saw the really like things that you cannot explain about his work. So
Yeah.
I understood like really the way his mind works. So as the
That's
show
cool.
progressed, so I think I loosened up a little bit more and more. I was more free later than in the beginning. In the beginning, I was very nervous and worried.
I can't imagine.
Yeah. So that would be something. Next time I work with him, I think I would be more free and loose.
Nice.
Yeah.
Would you be down to doing something like this again?
You mean with Rirkrit or someone else?
Maybe the Biennale
Oh.
or different artists, or maybe Rirkrit.
Yeah. I mean, I think this space, I realize it's a very attractive space for many people.
Yeah.
For many different reasons. I didn't really see it that way. I thought of it as more like, it's a great space for a studio. It's literally a lot of space and nature and peace. But
I'm super jealous. It's so awesome.
I know it's really perfect for artists.
I mean, not just
always thought-
artists, but just like people who like the outdoors and
Oh yeah.
animals and fresh tangerines off the branch. Come on,
But I really saw it more as like people who can stay here for like a good amount of time to
Yeah.
really get seeped into this environment. But then doing this show, I realized people who were here just 1 hour, they were having this amazing experience too. And some people even cried in the show.
Wow.
Yeah, at the end when we're having conversation,
Oh wow.
it really moved me. It really made me cry too. And
Yeah.
and I felt like, maybe there's something more that could be offered here for people who maybe are just really passing by.
Yeah.
Not someone that I really want to build a lifelong relationship. It doesn't have to be like that, maybe. So that's something I'm thinking about. And yeah, maybe I can open up the space like maybe once a year to do this kind of present this like relational work and experience. Yeah,
And the
why
fact
not?
that you just pumped through 1,000 people and you got to know them at a certain level, at
Yeah.
a certain level of intimacy.
Yeah.
It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, I gained so much.
Was
from
that
this.
Was it exhausting? Were you tired?
It was exhausting.
Mentally, physically.
Like, physically exhausting, but mentally, it was such a great.
Oh.
I don't know. I was like, I never had this kind of opportunity to
Yeah.
meet people in this way and in this really positive manner. you
Yeah.
know? Like, and it wasn't about money, it wasn't about job, work. It was really like people were really digging deep in their life and telling me how they connected to the show. And that made me feel like we're really meeting as human to human
Yeah.
without all these other things that we care about in this society,
Yeah.
That's really rare. And I was like, wow, yes, it was great to work with Rirkrit, but I feel like the thing that I got out of it most is all these friends and people that live
Rirkrit's
here
like,
in Jeju.
excellent. That's what I wanted.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think that's
Yeah.
what he wanted.
It was your show the whole time. And then he just flies away.
That's why I'm like really amazed. I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
geez, I don't know. He's still giving me all these,
Teaching you these things without teaching you.
Yeah,
That's an awesome.
exactly.
That's a proper mentor right there.
Yeah, he's a guru.
Yeah, a real guru, I would say. And as we were talking about the space, I love to just talk about the literal space that I just previously said that I'm super jelly about. I mean, I look across here. We've got chickens chilling on a picnic table. There's sparrows hanging around. You have a nice little garden. You have a tangerine, little mini orchard. How many trees? Like
7.
7 trees. 7 trees. And you got the forest in the background. There's even a Johnson Su bioreactor right there, which
Yeah.
is sick because I've only seen them on YouTube. You know what I mean? It's cool.
Yeah.
It's cool to see one
Yeah.
in the flesh. So I feel like it's safe to assume that going green and self-sustenance is more than just a hobby for you. Yes.
Yeah. No, it's, I think, for me, really a political almost activism in some ways. Like, I always was very interested in politics, but
Okay.
always felt very, very almost like what can I do? Like the world is like this, and I'm a mere individual who have no power and influence. Like
Yeah.
what can I do? Like,
Yeah.
and what does it matter what I do? You know, that's how I always felt. But then moving to an environment like this, where I could actually do more, I could every day I can make a decision that impacts the environment. So. And I can see it in my eyes, right? How the plants are growing or how the animals are, so happy or whatever. And so that gave me a lot of empowerment. Like, so I think for me, like this is my life and also political, sort of stance.
Yeah.
And in the meanwhile, I can also do some experiment in the artistic language. Yeah, so it's all of that, all tangled up.
As you're talking about that, what are some of the like movements and groups that you've participated or worked with?
I mean, I actually haven't worked in like groups or organizations because I'm a little bit of a anarchist.
Hence, that was another question. Is like, if you look for Yujin online, it's at Jeju Anarchist.
Yeah.
Now I'm like, what? Like, burn Jeju? Like, what does that mean? Like, burn it? Like, what doesn't she like Jeju? No. So yeah, what does that mean? Yeah.
I mean, I think a lot of people have like anarchist. This term anarchism has
Yeah.
a sort of like a bad rap.
Negative connotation to it.
Yeah, I think. But actually, I mean, through books, in terms of anarchism, I read a lot of Chomsky, and I really respect him. He's and he's very respected academic and political figure. So I don't see anarchism as this sort of like a chaotic society where you can do whatever the F you want. It's not about that. It's actually about holding the highest ethical standard to yourself.
Okay.
But believing that every individual in society, if they each held this high ethical standard in their own life, then you can think about it. It's like a butterfly effect kind of thing. It's like,
Yeah.
if everybody did that, why do we need laws to suppress or, to have this like sort of universal thing that applies to everybody? Because it actually doesn't logically make sense because every individual is different.
Right.
So to apply same thing to everybody is actually quite oppressive,
Okay.
whatever that is,
Yeah.
whether that's democracy or socialist or whatever.
Yeah.
In the end, what's most important is that you being able to make that decision by yourself, no matter whether that person tells you that it's legal or not. If you can to say that this is the right thing and do it. So I think anarchism for me is like that, which means it's the most freedom that you can have, but also most responsibility you have to also take. You cannot rely on the community or the society or
Right.
democracy to do the job for you.
Right.
You have to do it yourself. So it's for me, it gives me a lot of power for myself. And then also not trying to feel so, like powerless or just give up on the little things that I can change in my life. So because I'm an anarchist, so I'm not really for these 70s, 60s, 70s like community oriented kind of activism, because I feel like sometimes, and Chomsky also talks about this, he takes some examples in Israel, like a very successful commune, how it could also be very oppressive because basically if you make a community, you're either in or out.
Yep.
And if you want to be in, you have to go abide by their rules, right? And it could be a great rule. It could be a very ethical and great rule, but it's still exclusive.
Yeah.
Only people who are in that community gets that. And if you somehow go off a little bit, then you're not welcome anymore almost, like, or you have to be questioned.
That's interesting that you mentioned that because in a place like Jeju, with these very tight-knit communities, they do, there's a certain way to like do things.
Yeah.
And I feel like if, you got to be careful with how you talk or how you interact or do things even on your own property. If you're, in this one of these villages or communities, it's pretty tough.
There's a pros and cons to it. I mean, in some ways, like if you are like, let's say invaded, then of course it's
Yeah.
important to have this community
Sure.
to protect. But I think this is also a very like a 20th century mindset.
Yeah.
I feel like, especially for Korea, I think we're at a stage where we could loosen up more. We don't have to pursue this, old style communities. We can be more flexible about it and respect individuals' different desires and expressions, right? So that's why I'm not really for being part of a certain organization or group. I'm more sort of like, I can, if they need help or if they're doing something, I think I can go and participate, and I'd be very happy to support them. But to be like signed up as a member and like have this as an almost like an inscribed identity, I'm
Yep.
sort of against that, like for myself. So yeah, so I would say I'm very for the environmental groups, and I'm always participating in little things that I can, but I haven't really subscribed myself to any particular groups. Yeah.
Gotcha. Now we've got just a little bit of time left, so I'd like to cover just you've got 2 group shows.
Yeah.
Opening up in March and April on the mainland, right? Can you tell us about them real quickly?
Yeah, so because I consider Jeju more like a place where I make art, mostly I have exhibitions either in Seoul or abroad. And I have 2 shows coming up. One in March is held in this space called 이한열 열사 기념관, and he's the one who was protesting during the dictatorship era and I think he got hit by either like some, what is it called, like the
Baton or debris or rock or something?
by the police.
Yeah.
And he was basically murdered.
Yeah.
He died.
Yeah.
So this place runs a small exhibition space and puts together exhibitions related to fighting for democracy or whatnot. And the show that I'm part of is actually exhibition about not forgetting and remembering the Itaewon victims of Itaewon incident, I think so. The backstory to it is like some of the artists didn't want to do it in that particular space because it actually is also supported by the 민주당 의원.
Okay. Yeah.
Because there's one guy who was like a colleague to this 이한열 열사, and they protested together or whatnot. So it has a little bit of a political color to it, but actually for me, because I'm an anarchist, I don't really care about the politicians.
Okay.
I care about the message of the show, and it doesn't mean that I'm supporting 민주당 or whatever. And I really think this Itaewon incident, it's a really sad and a catastrophe where actually from an anarchist perspective the government didn't do its job.
I can't believe that happened, honestly.
Yeah.
Because I walked down that particular street, that
Right.
very specific street, many times.
Yeah.
I know exactly where it happened. It
Yeah.
was I was here in Jeju, but I just couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
It was like beyond shock.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
know. It was. I still can't believe
Yeah.
it, and I still feel for the families
Yeah.
and people who lost their lives. I mean, and mostly young people too.
Yep.
Yeah. So this is a show to sort of stand with the families and express it in art form, this kind of pain and how to overcome together. So it's a big group show, about 20 plus artists.
Wow.
And then the April show, it's actually one of my friends opened a new art space in Itaewon actually
Okay.
also.
Yeah.
And it's their first show.
Fun.
And the space is called 갤러리 자유.
Okay, we'll put that up.
Yeah.
We'll put that up. Yeah.
자유 means freedom. So
Nice.
yeah. So I mean, she also has a little bit of a political stance in many things, and so she said, whatever work related to freedom, you can.
Very cool.
Yeah. So maybe now that I'm talking to her, maybe I should do something about freedom and anarchism. Or something.
Yeah, I'm just a little disclaimer. If she ever opens up a gallery called Anarchy, don't just walk in and start smashing stuff. That's probably not the message.
I know. I'm trying
I mean,
to,
maybe you can. Who knows? Like,
I'm trying to flip this bad name. Actually, I met Gun online, and he said that because I wrote on my profile, free spirited anarchist, and so the first question he asked me was like, what do you mean by free
Yeah.
spirit anarchist?
And you're
So
like, got him.
it's like if you're someone who's asking me that question
Yeah.
and want to know, okay, you
Okay.
passed the first.
You have passed the
First
first test. Second,
Yeah.
like jump off a cliff. I don't know. Like, yeah.
Anyway, but then actually the show, because she's also sort of like she wants to use art to be engaging in society or issues of today. So she said that show, April show, because it's a gallery, you can sell the work, and the part of the profit will be donated to the what is it, the recent Turkey,
The earthquake victims and families.
in Turkey.
Yeah. Yep.
So it will be donated to that cause. So so I'm like,
Okay.
I'm happy to be part of it. And I actually have one more show coming up this year. It's actually in Jeju in September
Okay.
in the main museum, Jeju Museum of Art.
There you go.
I'll be in a big group show, and another Thai artist will be coming in to stay with me from end of June. And then we will collaborate together.
Relational art.
Yeah.
Nice.
Research-based and relational.
Nice.
And then we'll present a collaborative work in September in Jeju Museum of Art. So hope many of you who's in Jeju could come.
Yeah, come on out. Hopefully, our channel will grow by then, and we just send them all your way.
Exactly.
Don't don't start
Yeah.
breaking stuff. Well, my goodness. I had a fantastic time today. Thank you
it
for
was fun.
welcoming us. We have the chickens picking at the wires here. That's I love. That's exactly what I wanted. I wanted one of these chickens to like damage something. I don't know. It just seems kind of cool. That'll do it for today's episode of the Hallaholla podcast. Yujin, real quickly, where can we find you?
You can find me on Instagram. Jeju Anarchist is my Instagram. I do also have a Vimeo. I think you can just type in my name, and a website also. Yeah, yujinlee.myportfolio.com.
Great. All right. We'll put all that below, so make sure to check that out. And if you're watching, please give a like, or better yet, subscribed. You can also follow us on Instagram and find the podcast version on Apple, Spotify, and Podbang. And those links will also be provided below. If you'd like to be a guest, or if you'd like to be a sponsor of the show, I'd be down for that. Seriously, I will sell my soul. That's fine. That's good. That's totally cool. Tell me. Just tell me. Feel free to reach us at hallahollapodcast@gmail.com. That's HALLAHOLLA podcast@gmail.com. I don't know which camera to look. That one. I'm going to look at that one. I've been your host, Marco Suche, and I hope you join me next time on the next Hallaholla. See you then.
Thank you so much.
Bye.